Hi, you are watching the ASBA Board President webinar series. This is Nikki Whaley, Board Support Specialist with Arizona School Boards Association and School Board Member with the Washington Elementary School District.
And hi, I'm Julie Bacon, Leadership Development Specialist for the Association and a board member in the Paradise Valley Unified School District. So we are going to talk with you about what board presidents do in between meetings, in between the regular meetings. And one of the things that they do is they serve as an advisor to the superintendent. The superintendent may need your help with different parts of their job. You know, one being agenda setting, where they consult with you, and that is how the agenda is set. The superintendent and board president consult together. But also meeting practices and procedures, community feedback. Often the superintendent won't get the kind of honest, raw feedback that board members get, and so providing direction and advice around the community feedback that you're receiving. And then I think that one of the most important things is how and when to share information with other board members. And you know, in terms of when, do it right away? Can I wait until my weekly update? Those are some of the questions that the superintendent might have. And then how do I do it? Should I do it through a phone call, email, a text? Making sure that everyone gets the same information and you know, has the same access to information.
Right. I mean, as the board president, that advisor role is really to be a representative of the board. It's that a person that can go and get the feedback and talk to the different board members and then come with a single voice to the superintendent, so that they're not getting maybe as many bombardment from a lot of different places. And if you're doing your job well as a board president, that should limit some of that, because board members feel as if, as board president, you're really listening to them, listening to what they want to see on agendas, listening to them as far as feedback on how those communication protocols are happening. So one of the recommendations would be, as board president, to really make sure that you have some of those processes in place, because a lot of times boards go with past precedent, just things that have always been done that way. And that can be hard for new board members that maybe don't understand the process, or even existing board members that maybe things have changed and gotten away from what you may even have down in writing, and what you do in practice might be different. So it's really important to put that those processes in place so that you really can be a good advisor to your superintendent, coming with all that information. Also, just really quickly on the community feedback, it's important that you as a leader take the lead in how that feedback comes to us. We talk a little bit about how equitable it is that if the only voices that are considered in terms of community feedback are the 2 or 3 people each board member talks to, well, that's 15 people, and your district is much larger than that. So taking the lead as board president to create processes in place where more robust feedback can be collected from your community and returned to the superintendent.
Yeah. And then in between regular meetings, we also have those study sessions or work sessions. I think different districts call them different things, but I think in general, they are an opportunity for boards to have robust discussions in a less formal setting than a regular board meeting. And you're either looking at data, you're looking at programs, there's a hot topic that is on your agenda that you want the public to hear your thoughts around, and a work study session is the perfect place for you to do that. Again, these are special meetings of the board. They are public meetings, so you have to comply with all of the 24-hour notice and an agenda that is descriptive, so that your community can participate in that process.
And these can be really preemptive or reaction. So for example, it might be a good idea to look at your board calendar and fit spaces where you might have your annual retreat, or put a time where you'll do your board self-evaluation, and schedule that ahead of time so that it's something that you're prepared for, and that you can ensure that those things get covered throughout the course of the year. But they can also be reactionary in that something comes up during the year, a topic, as Julie was saying, comes before the board, and it's clear that there's more conversation that needs to happen. A study session might be a good place to set aside more dedicated time to cover that. Important to note here, though, that study sessions are the same as any other public meeting, so they are required to be noticed, and the public is allowed to attend like any other meeting of the board.
Right. And like, for example, in my school district, we have a number of study sessions a year, and some are routine ones, and then some are added as needed. So we obviously, every school district is different, and your board has different needs, and your district has different needs. But this is, I think, a really important tool if it's something that your board would like to do and utilize to keep your community and the employees of the district, students and families, engaged and informed.
So the next thing that we want to talk about is professional development. We all come to the board with various backgrounds and experiences, and most of us had never really been in the world of education or understood the role of a school board member. And so it's really a learning curve for all of us. And so the board president is that leader to say, hey, I want to make sure that each of the board members has what they need to serve in this role the best that they can. And so bringing opportunities to your board for conferences, whether that's in person or through webinars, to provide not only opportunities to get content and to see areas and programs that other folks are doing that you may not have even thought about, but also to network and talk to other people that are in roles similar to yours and see how they manage things. So your professional development of the board is really each member's responsibility, but as board president, you have the place to say, hey, these are some opportunities that are before you. And we hope that you would encourage that as a team, not only individually, but most notably as a team, because we know as one of the 8 characteristics of effective boards that teams that learn together grow together.
Yeah, and I just think this is, the importance of professional development can't be stressed enough. You know, we ask our teachers to do professional development. We ask our principals to do professional development. We would never expect any professional to never learn again after they leave college or they leave their certificate program for any other kind of job. And the same should be true of board members. We should be the role models in setting the standards that we expect of our employees and our students.
So next we talk about board self-evaluation. You do have, if you have our model policies, ASBA's model policies, you do have a board policy, BBA, that talks about that the board will do a self-evaluation annually. This is not required by statute, but it is a best practice that we've created a policy around. You'll notice that it'll say October, but really this can happen at any time that makes sense for the district in order to review the previous year or the current year's progress. One important thing to note that board self-evaluation is different than evaluating the district. So when we talk about board self-evaluation, we're really talking about the role of the board president to have a conversation about how the board is doing in their position as board members. So how are they getting along together? How well are they following policy? How are their practices in place? It's a way to offer accountability for board members, and it's also an opportunity to see where you can improve. Because as we had just said with professional development, boards are always going to need to do something a little bit better. If you're excellent in one area, there may be another area that you want to bring yourself up with. And that goes to the whole cycle of continuous improvement and growth. And also, like Julia had mentioned, we have such high expectations for our teachers and for our students, and they have regular evaluations. It's really an opportunity for us to also show that we are holding ourselves accountable and that we are looking at our own progress as board members.
Yeah, and setting those standards for professionalism, even though it's an unpaid job.
Then I think we also wanted to just mention the flashlight versus the hammer. If you're not familiar with this, this is the idea that data or looking at your information, you can either use it as flashlight or a hammer. A flashlight meaning you're going to look at the data, you're going to look at the self-evaluation tools as a way to guide you towards your continuous improvement, to illuminate opportunities where you can see growth, as opposed to hammering you over the head with the things that you're not doing. It's not meant to blame or shame, but really an opportunity for the board to see where they can improve. And if the board handles this well, they really are a role model for the rest of the district, so that they also look at evaluation, not as a punitive thing, but as an opportunity.
Right. And then special events. Many of you are invited to go to different events, and the board president may get those invitations more than the rest of the board, or perhaps the whole board should get that invitation. And there's lots of events that you can go to. I think you just have to be careful that when the board is there, if the whole board has been invited, that you're not violating open meeting law. But that these are opportunities for you to engage with your community, to understand the issues that are going on in your schools. Who doesn't love going to graduation? Everyone loves going to graduation. So that's a really fun thing to go to. But having your board be visible in the community at school events, I think, is a really important thing to do. And as board president, you can make sure that those invitations are going to your whole board and not just you.
Right, and you also have an opportunity to ensure that nothing slips through the cracks. I mean, maybe you're a smaller district, maybe you're a larger district, but either way, there's multiple events throughout the year that you could attend. Looking at those events and prioritizing what events really should have board representation, or if you want to see board representation at all events, making sure that you do that intentionally, so that, for example, we don't wind up seeing board members at every music performance, but we rarely see them at, say, a sporting event, or vice versa. So taking the opportunity to say, hey, we really believe that it's important for us to be seen out there. How are we as a board going to make sure that we're out at as many events as possible? And recognizing with people's schedules that they may not be able to attend everything, and that it really shouldn't be a shame or blame thing, that people at least schedule out a certain amount of things that they can find manageable.
Right, and I know since I've taken a full-time job, my ability to go to special events in between meetings is significantly different than it was a few years ago. So remembering that not everyone has the ability to do that is important, but making sure that everyone knows that they can if they want to, I think, is another important piece. So we'd like to thank you for joining us on this little portion of our board presidency webinar series, and we'll see you at the next ones.